Welcome to Monetize the Mic.
I'm Jessica Rhodes.
And I'm Margy Feldhuhn.
And we are the co-owners of the award-winning multi-seven-figure podcast booking agency, Interview Connections.
This is the show to teach you how to transform your business and life with the power of visibility and strategy.
Let's get started.
In this episode, I am going to share some of the breakthroughs I had going on a manifestation retreat with Kathleen Cameron. I went on her Rise retreat last week in the Bahamas, and it was a really profound, amazing experience. It wasn't what I thought it would be, but it definitely ended up being what I needed. And so I've been sharing this on my personal Instagram at Hey Margie on live, but we wanted to bring some of those lessons here to the podcast.
Yeah. And so this came about, we were in Florida for a mastermind that we're in, Kelly Roach's Legacy Leaders. And, Margie had this calling. She's like, I need someone to pour into me. Do I need like an executive coach? Like I need something, right? So she's now out seeking. And I remember we're walking through the airport. Well, she had previously heard from Anna Rains, like you should go to Kathleen's retreat. And so we're walking, she tells me about it in the hotel room. And I was like, okay, like cool. Like an expensive retreat in the Bahamas sounds like a perfect business investment. So
yeah, it was like in true Margie style of like being like, I think I want to invest in an executive coach to work with me as CEO. But I had been afraid to ask because it felt really selfish to ask the business to invest in coaching that was just for me. But I was like, as CEO and showing up and coaching and pouring into everybody else, I was like, I really feel like I need somebody who's like pouring into me. So I was like, I'll hire an executive coach. And then as just said, I reached out to Anna Rains, and I'm just kind of like researching different coaches. Kathleen Cameron is amazing. She's somebody I've like had my eye on who does incredible work with manifestation. And she's a really powerful, very authentic person. And so I reach out to Anna and I'm like, all right, like what do Kathleen's programs look like? She's got like some 6 months programs, and there's like they're like group programs with a call once a week, which I really was looking for something one-on-one, but I figured I'd ask like, what does it look like? And Anna was like, I actually think, I don't know that her programs would be as good a fit for you as this retreat, this like 3-day retreat in the Bahamas. It's going to be amazing. Kathleen's going to be there, getting her energy. You'll have these breakthroughs. And so it like went from me hiring an executive coach to me like telling Jess and my wife, like, I think I'm going to go to the Bahamas, and then being like, what are you talking about?
yeah. So we're like walking through the Palm Beach airport, and she's like, she has her phone out and she's like, I really feel like I need to be there. And I'm like, all right, okay. And like, if you know Margie, as Margie's wife and I know very well, when she says she really feels like she needs to be there, like we know it's going to happen. Like there's not, it's like get on board or not, but like this is happening. And so we sit down and she's like, really sharing, like, I really feel like I need to be there. And she was sort of like, and I was like, okay, what does that mean? Because like, whenever we work with a coach, like we always work with a coach, like together, like we join masterminds together, we're 50-50 partners and all that. And she was sort of like, do you want to check it out? Like, what do you think? And I look at it and I was like, I mean, it's hard to do. It's hard to look at a luxury retreat in the Bahamas and be like, this ain't for me. But I looked at it and I was like, this ain't for me. Like, yeah. I'm like, this, okay, you have my blessing. You can go on this retreat. And I'm like, I know it'll pay off, but it was like, okay, this is what it's like to partner with Margie. She is like, I'm going to do this. And you're like, I trust you, and go ahead.
Yeah. I get some intuitive hits that seem really off topic sometimes. But so far, 100% of the time, they have like paid off.
It's just so funny because like it went from like, and when I think executive coach, and I know this like isn't probably super, politically correct, but I just think of like an old man in a suit. I'm like, okay, she's going to go get some like CEO, And then it turns out she's like 2 weeks later in the Bahamas, like in clear blue water in this like $33 million mansion. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And it was like, and the thing is like, yeah, I mean, a luxury retreat is cool, but that wasn't what I set out for. I really set out because I knew that I needed to up level as a leader. And I wanted someone that was coaching me, and I wanted some coaching that was like just for me, because like Jess said, we get coaching together all the time, but increasingly we have very, very different roles. And like, I'm the only one in the CEO seat. And like, it's just a different vibe. It's a different, like, yeah, it does feel like I'm alone sometimes. And so having a coach who's just working with me directly to help me be the best CEO possible and to help me coach and mentor everybody else in the business who I mentor directly, and like to help them up level even more. I was also picturing an old white man, which is why it was so funny, because it was like the feeling was so strong. And it was like also funny because I am a little bit like easing into travel. So the idea, like I'm looking at this thing, we're in the airport, and I had just been like, I think I want to travel less. And this retreat is like less than a month away, an international trip, which is just like, on the surface, I was like, this is, and of course it was like every annual doctor's appointment I had fell during that 1 week. It was like, there was like all these inconveniences that I was just like, oh, but I felt so strong. And I was like, I have to be there. And so I was like, all right, I'm rescheduling everything. And like, you know, deep appreciation to Jess for supporting me and for believing that there would be an ROI to the business, and to my wife for supporting me when she was like really not happy that I had just gotten home and was like, I'm going to the Bahamas, like, bye. She was not happy, but I knew that I had to go, and I thought it was because I needed to go and get into Kathleen's presence, because she has this incredible vibe and energy. I had heard about it. I ended up going, and we actually didn't spend a lot of time with Kathleen because she had some health issues, which was really interesting, because at first, the first day, she wasn't there. And I was like, there was that part of my mind that was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, why did I have this intuitive hit that I needed to be at this thing when the person whose presence I wanted to be in to get this next level guidance to bring back to the business isn't here? And I don't say that with any rudeness, but like, those are the sort of limiting thoughts that come up sometimes. But then there was this other part of me that was like, I'm here. This investment is made. I am going to have a breakthrough. And like, when I decide I'm going to have a breakthrough, as I've told a few people, I could have a breakthrough staring at a telephone pole. Like, breakthroughs on demand, baby. If I'm like, I'm going to have a breakthrough, I'm going to have a breakthrough. And I did end up having these huge breakthroughs, but they weren't, and this is so true. Like when we did Landmark, it was like this, like the breakthroughs never look how I think they're going to look, but it's always the breakthrough that I need. And showing up without my wife, without Jess, and Jess and I always go to business things together. It was so weird. I couldn't believe it. So I show up in this super expensive villa, expecting to feel this like amazing manifesty abundance, right? And I showed up and I actually felt kind of weird. And I was like, shit, like I'm not manifesting, right? You know, like I'm supposed to be in this expensive villa and feel the feelings of abundance and like all of this stuff. And, but I like showed up, and it was sort of awkward because I came a little bit earlier than everyone else. So there was only a few people in the house, and like, and again, I'm not knocking the retreat. Amazing retreat. Kathleen is amazing. This is how I experienced it because of my level of consciousness, which then evolved. We're going to take you through it. But so I first arrived and I'm feeling awkward, and there's like a few people and I'm kind of like, hi. And they all seem to know each other because they had participated in Bob Proctor and Kathleen programs for a long time. They are part of that world, which I have never done any of those things. So people are like, why are you here? And I was like, I've gotten that question a few times, like Jess and Alex would ask the same thing. I'm not sure. I just knew I had to be here. And it was sort of awkward. And then everybody arrived and we had this dinner, but Kathleen was supposed to be there, but she wasn't there. And it was a little weird. And I didn't really know anyone. I knew one person, I knew Anna, but like she had other friends there who she's been friends with for a long time. So I didn't want to like intrude on her time with her BFFs. So I was just sort of like awkwardly floating around. And being like, why do I feel so weird? Like, I'm like, Margie, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, you're literally in a mansion on the beach. Why are you feeling uncomfortable? You should just be feeling like amazing and manifesting. And so we go through the first full day of the retreat. Kathleen's still not there. It's very unclear when she's going to get there, if she's going to get there. And I'm kind of like, what is happening? And I'm still like in this battle against myself of like, come on, you asshole, like manifest, like look at the ocean and feel the feelings of abundance, Margie.
Swing on those swings in the water.
Yeah. But we didn't get to the swings yet. That was a good
okay.
moment. But I'm like, come on, girl, like talking to myself, like, but still feeling so weird. So we get through day one and it's like nice. I think it was all of day one because we get to dinner and, or like dinner time and people are sharing. And I was like, I need to just share this because I've experienced this so many times where there's just something like knotted up in you and you're like fighting against yourself. And only when you say it out loud to other human beings are you free of it. And it's always awkward, but it's like, I knew I needed to do that. So everyone's doing their shares and they're like talking about abundance and like all like the stuff we're supposed to be talking about. And I get the mic and we're at this big, giant, live edge wood table with this insane ocean view. And I get the mic and of course my voice starts cracking immediately. So I'm like into the mic, like, I just like feel like it's like so embarrassing. So my voice stays like that through this entire speech. And I just like opened up to them about like feeling so insecure and like showing up alone and feeling like those old feelings from like middle school of like, does my body look right? Like, am I wearing the right clothes? Am I saying the right things? Like everybody knows each other. They're already friends. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't know anyone. So I'm kind of floating around and I'm like trying not to look like a weird outcast, but I'm also trying not to intrude on other people's conversations. Like just like being an absolute nutcase in this like gorgeous, with this gorgeous backdrop.
Now, if you have not seen the Instagram stories, like imagine selling Sunset. It is like one of those mansions.
Yeah. And it's like, and one of the lessons I think is that like, no matter how gorgeous the scenery, it's like what is happening inside of you. That's what matters. Like you could have a view of a dumpster and if you're in alignment, it's going to be amazing. And you can be in a gorgeous $35 million villa and like battling old insecurities that you thought you were like 20 years away from experiencing. So I share all this in my like cracked voice and it was so beautiful. And by like being honest with people about how I was feeling, I was able to actually connect with them. People in the group were tearing up. People told me they felt the same way. And I was like, really? Because you look amazing. And they were like, you look amazing. And I was like, maybe we're all crazy. And it was just so amazing. And so after I did that share, you know what this was after the boat experience. So we did have that really cool boat experience, which was really nice, but I still felt kind of weird. And then after I said that, we finished our food, everybody's like milling around and Rosie, this really nice woman who was there comes up to me and she was like, today when we were on the boat excursion, I told you, I love your bathing suit. It's like your style is so gorgeous and so unique. And she had said this compliment at a normal volume of voice to me. People around heard because they could hear that conversation. They were like, yeah, I heard that. And I didn't answer her. Like, it must have looked like I snubbed her because I literally didn't hear it. And that blew my mind. I was like, because I wasn't feeling confident in myself, I literally physically could not hear the nice things that people were saying to me. And that blew my fucking mind, because it's like, how much love and support is around you that you're not even hearing? How much money are people trying to give you and you are not even hearing them? You are not even seeing it because you're out of alignment with that. And so that was like that was like part one of the lesson that was really, really profound for me. And then the next day, there was like a deeper version of that same lesson. So the next day, and I also want to say, it wasn't like I said this and then everything was great. Like, right, I was still in this space of discomfort, but it wasn't like it was before. I felt connected to the people around me. I just felt a little uncomfortable. And one of the things I've realized is that being connected with people makes me uncomfortable. And so I have to work with my nervous system, like true connection. So that really broke the ice when I was able to share that. People started coming up to me and like, they were like, you seem really confident. Like they were like, one person was like, I was really surprised to hear you say that, because you seemed really confident. You seemed really happy and friendly and confident. And I never would have guessed you were feeling that way. And that was cool, because I was like, how many other people are feeling that way, that we just think are so much more confident than we are, but they are actually feeling a totally different way. So I connected with people. Peggy, shout out to Peggy, my BFF, who we know, who's done like a bunch of our master classes. I got to know her. And it was just really special. So I'm still feeling a little uncomfortable because I've just been super vulnerable with all these basically strangers, but I felt this relief and people were like, you look lighter. And so the next day, I think it was the next day, or maybe it was 2 days later, then our last morning there, we did a guided meditation with this amazing musician named Joel. His handle is A Soul Called Joel. We'll link to it in the show notes. He's on TikTok and on Instagram as A Soul Called Joel. He's the best. He's like the most calming person in the entire world. He also has all these amazing manifestation and affirmation and just instrumental stuff on Spotify. He's an incredible guitar player and singer. He is the guitar player for India Ari. They've been working together for like 7-8 years. He manifested that. That's a whole sidebar, but he told me the story of how he manifested that. She found him online. It was crazy. So he's like, all right, so I'm going to walk you through this meditation called I Am the Love of My Life. And I had seen it on the agenda and I'm like, cute, like whatever, like that's nice. And then I met Joel. I sat with him at dinner the night before and I was like, oh, this guy's great. Like he's like so calm. And like, he just is one of those people who you just love immediately. He's so open. He's so calm. He makes you feel calm. He can like regulate other people. He has that superpower. So having talked to Joel and gotten to know his very calm energy, I'm like, cool, this is going to be a chill time, this like morning meditation. It was not, in fact, a chill time, but it was the time I needed. So he's playing guitar. He's having us like breathe in and breathe out. And then he starts playing this song, which is on Spotify, called I Am the Love of My Life. Which like, I'm like, okay, like that's super cute. But I wasn't like, I didn't like hear that title. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, that's nice. I'm sure other people will get a lot out of that. I think is exactly what I said. So
classic Margie.
I know. I don't learn sometimes. So he's like playing the guitar and he's like an amazing guitarist. And also he's so present and in flow when he plays that it just has a different quality. And so he's like, close your eyes. I'm like, all right, Joel. And then he's like, I want you to watch a movie of your life for 2 minutes, starting at your birth and coming to this moment. For 2 minutes, I want you to just close your eyes and watch the video. And so he's playing the song, The Love of My Life. He's like coming in and talking to us a little bit. and everybody's eyes are closed. And I just start to hear like loud crying coming from all around me, like, and I'm crying too. So I've done a lot of trauma work. I've gone back there. I've processed stuff. So I'm like, I kind of felt like I knew what to expect. Like this, I am about to embark on watching a very sad movie, and like, fine. So, but I started, and the reason I started crying was not because it was sad. It was because of the opposite. So I start watching, I like watch my birth, and like my dad's there, and it's like so cute. And I'm like this little baby. And then I watch like my life, and it was so weird because I felt like I could see things differently, even though it was just an imagination, like it's a projection, but it really felt like I was there. And suddenly I could see all these things watching it from the outside that I hadn't been able to see when I was actually experiencing it as my younger self. And the thing that I saw that blew my mind was that I have this very subconscious narrative that like I am alone, right? Like that, like I've just always been so lonely. Like I've always like even, and I feel the most lonely when I have the most people around me, even if it's like people I love. I've always just felt like disconnected and out of place. And like sometimes being around other people was worse than just being alone because it made me feel even more alone. So I know this is kind of intense,
kind of dark.
right? But I want to be really honest about it, because if I'm not, you won't be able to get anything out of this. So, and it was like, it's subconscious. Like I wouldn't have described it as that. What I thought was that like people just didn't love me as much as they loved other people. That's what I thought, because I couldn't feel the love. So I thought that people don't love me enough. Like I feel alone when I'm with my loved ones because they don't love me enough. They're not giving me enough love. They're not, giving me enough words of affirmation and support and all that stuff. And then I watched the movie of my life, and what blew me away was the amount of love, the number of people who have been rooting for me since day one, cheering me on, supporting me, loving me. And it was so crazy. And then those people who are really memorable, like those negative experiences of people who like said mean things to me or called me ugly or said I was fat, like that stuff that in so many ways has like shaped me kind of and made me more closed off and made me distrustful. It was such a minority of people who were mean, and the majority of people like loved me and supported me so much. So I was like crying because I'm like seeing all of this love and support that I hadn't seen and I hadn't felt it. And the analogy that came to me was like, it was sort of like you've got like this jug of water, right? And the water's the love. And then I'm this jar, and the top's on the jar. And so you're pouring the jug of water over the jar, trying to get it in the jar. And it's all just hitting the top and going out. There's nothing going in the jar. And then instead of me being like the top's on the jar, I kept thinking there's not enough in the jug. There's not enough love. I'm not getting enough love. And it was crazy to realize how much love and support I was getting and that I wasn't receiving it. And that just like changed everything for me, I feel like. And I realized, and I voice messaged my wife, Alex, I voice messaged Jess, because the two of them particularly, they see me a lot. They know me well, and one of the things that I do is like, I just don't like to show weakness. Because of my narrative that I'm alone, it's me versus everybody. It's like, I always have my game face on, like almost no matter what. I'm like, no worries. I know what to do. We're good. I'm fine. I'm good. Like, let me help you. I'm fine. And I realized that I had picked up on those moments where to me, I was showing weakness, where I don't think this is actually weakness. I don't think they would say this, but my interpretation was weak moments, moments where I didn't know what to do, moments where I got emotional and I didn't mean to, moments where I was vulnerable. I could tell that both Jess and Alex in those moments were happy, right? They would like lean in. They're like, yes. And my interpretation for my previous understanding of me versus everyone was like, these assholes, like they want to see me weak. Well, they're not fucking gonna, like, it was like, and it was so funny to have this realization and be like, they're not happy because they want me to suffer. They're happy because they love me and they want to actually be able to see me and contribute to me and connect with me. And when I'm acting like everything's perfect and I'm on top of it and I have my game face on, they can't connect with me. When I'm like, let me help you and I'm supporting them, but I'm not allowing them to see me or support me, I'm like robbing them of this gift of contribution, of real contribution and connection with me. And that was like so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause when it feels like a one-way relationship, when, one person is not ever opening up or showing their vulnerabilities or showing their weakness. Like, I know for me, it was like, after all, I'm like, well, Margie always has it together. She is always right. She is never having a down moment. And meanwhile, I'm like crying and like, Margie, help me. And so I think, for so long, I've always felt, I would feel less than you because I'm like, well, she never has breakdowns. She's not, then. So it was just, I really acknowledge you for like having that breakthrough and sharing that, because it does feel so good to be able to support somebody when they're feeling down, because everyone has those down moments. And it's nice to, be able to support each other.
Yeah. And it feels good to receive support. It's uncomfortable, like for me. And if you're like me, you have to work with your nervous system because it feels like you just want to snap shut. Then you gotta like stay open and like ease into it. But it feels good to receive that. And it also feels good to like be a real person. Like it's like, I do have it together a lot. Like but there are moments where I don't share what's going on. Or one thing I do is like, when it's happening, like when I'm in something, when I'm really in it, my mind to keep me safe is like, don't tell anyone, because it feels like an open nerve that I have to protect. And then it's only once I've like figured it out by myself and I'm on the other side of it that I'll then tell this really sanitized version of it, which looks like authenticity and is a kind of authenticity, but it's not the same as opening up when you're in it, because that's what feels really threatening, but that's also what allows your people to see you and to support you. And it was also like to hear you say that, Jess, and Alex said something similar to me. It was crazy to realize that because of my fear of people hurting me and my belief that, I mean, I am so sensitive. And I always looked at extreme sensitivity as a handicap and something that I had to hide and like protect. And to realize that in my fear of like vulnerability, in my fear of being hurt, in my effort to protect my sensitivity and what felt like an open nerve for me, I had made the people that I love most feel bad about themselves because I'm showing up protecting myself, acting like everything's fine, and not realizing that I'm making them feel less than or like they can't contribute to me. And that was crazy because that is not at all what I intended. And it was very cool. And of course, it's like an ongoing thing. I'm going to have to keep reminding myself, like reminding my body, doing the neuro drills. It's safe. It's safe to let people in. It's safe to let people see me when I don't have it together. But it's so powerful. And it's just, I feel less alone. Like I really feel differently after a lifetime of unconsciously feeling alone. I feel and receive the love and support around me now for the first time.
That's so beautiful. We are really taking y'all on some deep journeys. Welcome to our life.
Yeah, June is a deep, deep month on the podcast. So
Yeah.
I hope that you like it. Follow us on social media, shoot us an email. I really am interested in people's takeaways. Like if you heard something here and you were like, oh my gosh, this is me. Feel free to like send us a DM, or you can email me at margie@interviewconnections.com if you're just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like honestly, we're the type of friends you can like DM us and tell us your deepest traumas on the first DM, and like we're not going to judge you for that. So if you are hearing this and you're just like, wow, I can relate to this, like you can find us on social, you can send us a message. Like we're happy to connect with you. If you're, you know, an entrepreneur that's like really serious about up leveling and you want to coach with us, you want to get out on podcasts, like reach out to us, you know, interviewconnections.com, Margie@interviewconnections.com. Multiple calls to action, breaking my own rules, but yeah. All right. Thanks all.